Alright guys, so this is my canvas size. You can copy it. I prefer square canvas whenever I am painting something because I want to post it on my Instagram. That's why. So here we have our background color layer, and our layers are separate from background color layer. So if in case you want to export your paintings without any background, you are gonna have to hide the background color layer as it's separate from other layers. Now I'm gonna pick up black color, and this brush, I will mention the name of the brush that I'm using. So it's like a pencil, and I want some sort of texture in my painting. Now here what I'm showing you guys is that when I put less pressure onto the screen, the color is really light, and when I put more pressure onto the screen, the color is dark. We get a lot of pigment out of the brush when we do that. So here I'm just using black color for the eye sketch, and hence this is the reason why I chose to do this pressure sensitivity trick to sketch the eye, where I'll be putting less pressure where I want light color and more pressure where I want dark black color. I hope this is making sense. You can just practice it with the brush before you begin the sketch. And also the brush you have chosen, you have to also choose the same brush as your blending tool. This way we will not lose out on the texture that we are getting from this specific brush. By the way, this brush is a default Procreate brush, so you don't have to download it from anywhere else. So I'm gonna start by, as you guys can see, it's so light. I'm not putting more pressure onto the screen. I'm not putting much pressure onto the screen because I didn't want this sketch line or this starting layer to be that dark. So I created this almost kind of almond kind of shape here, and it's easy to create. You can do this. You can slow down the video if you want to. So yeah, that's the first step. And I also cleaned up any mess that I made around that shape, and I began drawing the waterline as well. And now I am creating this eyeball, this little line near the tear of the eye to represent the shape of the eyeball. Now if you draw a circle and hold it, Procreate automatically creates a really well-defined circle for you. So for the pupil of the eye or iris, okay, I'm just confused right now. So for that, what I am gonna do here is I'm just gonna create a very imperfect circle or circle kind of shape, and then I am going to hold the shape and until Procreate creates a very well-defined circle for us. So you're gonna have to practice it if you're new to Procreate. Other than that, if you know how Procreate works, it should work out real well for you. So now I am creating the crease of the eye like this. It's really simple, you guys. If you want, you can just pause it right here until you draw the whole thing if you think it's a little too fast. The reason why I sped it up is because I didn't want this video to be too long, but I also wanted to make sure that you guys can follow it. So I created this shape for the eyebrow as well. Now we have our base layer ready. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start by darkening that outline of the iris by putting a lot of pressure onto the screen so that I can get as much pigmentation out of the brush as I can. And as you guys just saw, I created another layer right underneath our sketch lines. So in this layer, I am going to be adding the shadows, the shades, the highlights and everything. And the reason why I keep everything separate or in separate layer is because if we mess up something, we can just go back without having to, erase or mess up our sketch lines in this case. So now in this layer, I am actually darkening those lines up. So the whole idea behind creating this initial layer for the sketch was to have a little guide as to where we are going to be putting more shadows, highlights, and darkened outlines. So that's essential whenever you're painting something digitally. make sure you have a rough sketch ready for you first. So as you guys can see, I am here not really worrying about the colors being blended together, because here the whole goal is to add colors in shadows without worrying about that, because we'll be doing that later on in the tutorial. So right now you have to just focus on placing the shadows and the highlights. So there is like nothing much to explain. What you can do is you can literally just follow whatever I am doing here in this tutorial. So basically I have focused the more black and dark color on the corners of the eyes, like the tear duct, and towards the end of the eyes, you guys can see, and also created this shadow underneath the upper lash line as well. So you really have to make sure or see if you have a reference, you can just go ahead and shade according to your reference, or if you're following the tutorial, you just slow it down and just place the shadows exactly the way I did. Now for the crease also, I made sure that I'm getting a lot of pigment out of the brush, so I put a lot of pressure under the screen to get that, and I also decrease the size of the brush, so you might have to play around with the size of the brush as well. So that's kind of self-explanatory, but I just wanted to mention that. As you guys can see, I also shaded around the crease area, and when I'm shading larger parts of the drawing, I increase the size of the brush. And specifically this brush has a little bit of pencil kind of texture, so it was not covering a whole lot, but still it did the job. And if you're having a hard time getting lighter shades and darker shades out of just one color, I would recommend just first practicing pressure sensitivity with your Apple Pencil, and just start practicing that. Just start creating crazy lines to practice that, and you will get good with it. You're gonna get good with it. You're gonna get used to it. So I am gonna be filling up this eyebrow shape as well, really lightly, and I'm also going to be creating hair strands with the same brush because I wanted the texture in my whole painting. So I do have a lot of tutorials on how to draw eyebrows, so if you want to see that, I will link all the tutorials down in the description. So if you're somebody who's like really new to Procreate or digital art, those tutorials are just gonna help you in a lot of things. So I'm also gonna be linking down below tutorial for eyebrows and eyelashes as well, if you don't know how to create those. So those are a little too detailed, but if I were to give you a summary, I'm just creating these little hair strands. So what I do is I start with putting a lot of pressure onto the screen, not a lot, but yeah, just a little more as compared to when I'm leaving the strand. The pen goes slowly away from the screen, if that makes any sense. If not, the tutorials are always there down in the description. Just check this out. That's not difficult. Eyebrows are really simple. Make sure you're using small size brush for that. And in the similar fashion with the small size brush, I am creating eyelashes as well with the same brush. And it's really easy. As you guys can see, the eyes are actually looking quite nice. So if you want to follow the tutorial or what I'm doing in the tutorial, you can do that. Just slow down the video if you want to, and you might not get it in the first go, and it's okay, you know, it's all about practicing. So if you're not getting it in the first go, give it another try and another try and another try until you get it. And once you get it, you'll realize how good you are getting with the pen on the iPad, because if you're new to, specifically if you're new to digital art only, you were a traditional artist and you're not used to using a pen on an iPad, then yeah, that it all boils down to practice, practice, and practice. So as you guys can see, I also created bottom lashes as well. Now I picked up my blending tool. As you guys can see, the opacity is really low. You want to make sure opacity is really low because we don't want to blend it all out. We do want to have some sort of texture, some sort of harsh shadows in our paintings. That's what make our drawings realistic, okay? So if you're deciding to blend it out, even though I realized that I didn't need it because the texture was looking really good, but even if you are planning to do that, make sure the opacity is really low. You can play around with it. If you're new, I would recommend playing around with it, like increase the opacity, blend, and see how the colors are mixing up. If you don't like it, you can always go ahead and undo it. That's the pretty good part about digital art, is you can just undo everything. Okay, so I didn't blend out everything because I really liked the texture that I had. So now I picked up a white color. I added that near that black part of the eyes, just to add that reflection in the eyes and just to make them look that much more realistic. And yeah, I think we are pretty much done with our eyes. There is nothing else left. And that's how you can actually create realistic eyes in just a few minutes. I did it in 20 minutes. You might be seeing this tutorial as 11 minutes. I actually did it in 20 minutes. You can slow the tutorial down if you want to, but I really hope this video helped you. If it did, give this video a big thumbs up, and I will see you guys in my next video.